Seattle just cannot stop the run. Like, good night, Mitchell.
We're going to move to Seattle quickly here, Rich. I hate to say I kind of saw this coming. I mean, again, we kind of go back to this being that point in the season where we look at teams that are potentially fraudulent. I don't want to call Seattle fraud. I like their team. I think they have and they're battling injuries. But they were bound to get caught by one of these losses eventually, Rich. They've been flirting with it. They flirted with the Rams last week, and they finally got caught. I mean, talk to me. Are you nervous with Seattle going down the stretch? Because it's do or die now, Rich.
I mean, I'm not nervous, but I'm not confident. I'm just not confident in the defense. Offensively, they're getting it done. They're still scoring points. This is probably Geno's worst game, and he still threw for 3 touchdowns. He threw those 2 interceptions. One of them, he thought it was a free play. I think the refs missed one, but his receivers are looking good. 6 straight game for Tyler Lockett with a touchdown. Marquise Goodwin had his best game, 5 catches for 95 yards and a touchdown. Looked really good. He's creating another avenue for them, but they cannot run the ball. They can't run the ball, and they can't stop the run. Like that's the worst thing you can pretty much have, Mitchell. You can't not be able to run the ball and not be able to stop the run. Like that's going to be hard every game. Carolina rushes for 224 yards. You're talking about every week they're giving up astronomical numbers rushing the football, and then you have the San Francisco 49ers coming in on a short week. And they're going to run the ball. Christian McCaffrey's coming off his best game as a San Francisco 49ers, a lot of long runs, and they're going to feed him.
You already lost Rashad Penny. This is a game they desperately needed Rashad Penny. With Kenneth Walker III being out this game, they lose their 1-2 punch. Travis Homer's never been that guy, pretty much a third down back by nature with his game, and he's expected to tote the rock. They're left in a very tough position. And if K9's not back on Thursday Night Football, it might be a pretty tough game for him. I mean, the Niners, let's talk about the Niners real quick because they look different, Rich, and I'm sure you can agree with that.
Yeah, Mitchell, they look pretty good. Mitchell had to. It's just low-hanging fruit. Look, they look great. The kid looked great. And then there are people saying that Kyle is opening his playbook more for this kid than he did for Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. It's a totally different game. He's tossing it up. He got Christian and McCaffrey out wide, running go routes, tossing it up to him. He's throwing double moves to Brandon Ayuk on the outside. We hadn't seen that all season pretty much. Like a little bit underthrown, but hey, touchdown right before the half. We'll take it. And then you watch him scramble for a touchdown. Like that's a dynamic that Jimmy G could not have brought, in that situation. You're looking for a touchdown. He created more time. Found a lane, made a guy miss, scored a touchdown. Then defensively, my goodness. Nicholas John Bosa went sackless this game, unfortunately. But they held him scoreless in the first half. They gave up a touchdown in the second half, but they played phenomenal. Dre Greenlaw, man, he looks like an all-pro. If it wasn't for all-pro Fred, you'd be talking about all-pro Dre. Big play Dre is making huge plays week in and week out. I mean, Diamador Lenore is playing really solid football quietly. He's been starting for the past couple games. Since they, got banged up and E-Man went out and Verrett went out and, we got to figure out what's happening with Dante Johnson because, their depth is getting kind of slim right now, but he's playing really good football. He's aggressive. He's tackling well, and they're really happening. And your boy Talanoa Hufanga, Jimmy Ward, Tayshaun Gibson had an interception today, a big play. You don't see a lot of weaknesses to this team. And Kyle Shanahan, if it wasn't for Sirianni and the Eagles going 12-1 right now and playing unbelievable, we'd be talking about Kyle Shanahan for Coach of the Year, being able to get to his third-string quarterback and beat the GOAT 35-7, like nobody, or 35-7. Like nobody's talking about that.
They've had every reason, Rich, to just start waving that white flag. Every excuse in the world, and they just keep rising and rising and rising. I mean, this is serious story developing right in front of our eyes. I mean, Mr. Irrelevant. Rich, this guy was drafted with the last pick in the draft and is now called upon to lead arguably the hottest team in the NFL down the stretch. And Brock Purdy.
And he's not just a passenger on the ship. He's slinging a rock. Like he had 3 touchdowns in the first half. He ran one in, he threw for 2, scored right before the half. He's playing with a lot of confidence. You hear it every week. His teammates glowing about, the command he's taking in the huddle, joking about, how he's yelling and cursing out receivers and getting guys settled in the huddle, to shut up. But, I mean, that's what you want from a quarterback. You want guys to take command, be confident, and they feel good about him, But I don't want to be controversial, Mitchell. But almost the worst thing that could happen for the 49ers right now is Brock Purdy takes them to a Super Bowl and win it. Mitchell, if Brock Purdy takes the San Francisco 49ers to the Super Bowl and wins it, I'm gonna have to get off Twitter till at least September, because you're gonna have the biggest conflict for 49ers fans in the history. They're barely going to be able to enjoy the Super Bowl championship. The quest for 6 will be finally over, but all you will hear about is them arguing about Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo. And what do you do, Mitchell? It's not a problem I want, but it's the problem Kyle Shanahan will have, and he'll want it. Win a Super Bowl. Good promise to have, baby.
It certainly is. I mean, obviously you played under him, Rich. I mean, Kyle Shanahan is a mastermind. The way he simplifies the offense to allow some guy, a rookie, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, to come in here and play solidly, and to dominate against Tom Brady. I mean, it's just unbelievable to see. But they seem to be cursed by this old injury bug. Deebo Samuel, it looked like a pretty gruesome injury, but we're hearing now that he did not suffer any serious knee injury. It's more of an ankle twist. At some point in time, how do you overcome all of this? Because Deebo's theoretically going to be out at least a couple weeks, I would assume.
Mitchell, they did not stop scoring when Deebo Samuel went out. I want to say they scored maybe a few plays later. The way they overcome it is with the weapons they had. They had a plethora. They had an abundance. They had a smorgasbord of riches. And they still do without Deebo Samuel. You still got to, now you're going to see guys like George Kittle come back into the fold and get more targets. You're going to see Brandon Ayuk, like you saw, get more targets and be involved. You're going to see Ray McLeod. Danny Gray got involved late in the game. They're going to try to get him going again, the speedster. And you're going to see Kyle Shanahan again overcome it. When we played in 2019, we lost 2 tackles for almost 10 games in the season. You don't lose 2 tackles for 10 games and go to a Super Bowl. Not in the National Football League. And we did. We lost. We had so many injuries that year. They always find a way to win. They always find a way to overcome. That's what, 6 games straight, 6 wins straight. Like, they're hot as fish grease right now, Mitchell. It's going to be tough to beat.
On the other side of the token is this NFC South division. Someone's got to win it, Rich. And unfortunately, we got to talk about it. But I want to start with the Bucs and what we're seeing with Tom Brady, what could be the last season of his career. Obviously, I don't think there's much debate. He's the GOAT, but he looks human right now, Rich. Your thoughts on Tom?
Well, he looks human because he doesn't have his starting right tackle, his all-pro, Pro Bowl right tackle. His left tackle has been very, consistent for the last 2 years, is going through something. It's been personal, he says. He's a friend. The offensive line, you lost Jensen early. You got so many injuries, so he doesn't have the time to throw the ball. His connection with the receiver just seems off. In training camp, a lot of them were injured. He's not seeming like he has the same rapport with them. And defensively, they just didn't play good enough today. They didn't play good enough. You lost Vita Vea earlier in the game, and he's a huge part of what they do. He's an enormous, literally and figuratively, an enormous part of what they do. And when you lose a guy like that, it's just like the Philadelphia Eagles when they lost Jordan Davis. The entire defense changed, and they had to go get Linval Joseph. They had to go get Ndamukong Suh, and then to shore it up until Jordan Davis comes back. And it was just unfortunate. They gave up plays everywhere. It was just uncharacteristic plays everywhere around the field, and you hate to see it, especially with Tom. But it's unfortunate. But they're just not playing good enough, and they're still going to be in the playoffs. The Carolina Panthers are looking really good. They're on a roll. You may see them in the playoffs. Who knows?
Well, that's just it. The Bucs are playing the Bengals next week. The road's just not getting any easier for this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team. I'm assuming they're going to be heavy underdogs in that game going into it in a must-win situation. Meanwhile, the Carolina Panthers appear to be the one team in this division that actually wants to win it. And they go on the road and get a huge win in Seattle. And they're sticking to their identity, which is just run the football. And let's hope Sam Darnold doesn't turn the ball over. But they look halfway decent.
Sam Darnold's playing pretty good football. He's not throwing for crazy astronomical numbers, but he's being smart with the football. He's running it when he has to. He's being conservative with the football. And then you got J.C. Horn, interception. Could have had him 2 today, playing unbelievable football. Looks like he's found his footing. C.J. Henderson had an interception and almost had him a second. So you also have young guys developing, young guys who had a lot of promise, had a lot of potential, playing up to that potential. And that's huge as well. And then you, of course, have Brian Burns. You got Shaq. You got a bunch of talent on that defense and a bunch of pride. And those guys, they smell blood in the water. They got the Pittsburgh Steelers next. That's a winnable football game.
Sure.